Assemble! Stay dandy, baby. Things get explosively bloody when the League of Villains has a violent encounter with Overhaul, a young Yakuza leader who has big plans for the future of the villains. And Izuku Midoriya comes face to face with All Might's former partner, Sir Nighteye. The first episode of the 4th season of My Hero Academia was a glorified recap episode. While it was better than a lot of recap episodes that I've seen, I was really ready to get back to the main storyline, which was teased at the very end of the last season with the introduction of a brand new character who goes by the name of Overhaul, a Yakuza leader who leads a group of plague doctor-wearing cronies who are going to try and take over the League of Villains, or more, that he's going to try and bring them into his very own Yakuza organization. Now, at the end of the last season, it seemed like he was actually going to be a new member of the League of Villains, but this episode sort of changed all of that when we actually get to learn that the only reason that he's having this meeting with Tomura Shigaraki and all of his goons is because he knows that now that All for One has officially been defeated by All Might, there's going to be a brand new leader, a brand new head honcho in town who is going to lead the underworld. And if it's going to be anyone, it's going to be him. He immediately gets at odds with Tomura Shigaraki and the other members of the League of Villains, and you can already see that there's a crazy amount of tension between these two groups. And this alone is an interesting prospect, as we have two villainous organizations who are actually vying for power. It's not just the heroes versus the villains anymore, it's the villains versus the villains. And it also leads to what might be one of the craziest, most violent scenes of the entire freaking series. So Overhaul makes it pretty damn clear that he wants to be the leader. He wants to run everything, and he is the one who's going to ensure that everything is going to be perfectly organized and that they're going to have the perfect team to take down the heroes and all of the successors of All Might. However, this does not sit well with the other members of the League of Villains, in particular Magne, who immediately decides to go on the attack using his magnetism abilities to try and take down Overhaul before things can get out of hand. This is when we are introduced to his quirk for the very first time, which is really fucked up to say the least. I mean, we've already seen some pretty dangerous quirks from the series, with Tomura being able to quite literally dissolve people upon touching them, but it looks like Overhaul can do something kind of similar, but in a more bloody and messed up fashion. Magne is about to attack Overhaul with his massive magnet block. Suddenly, Overhaul removes one of his white gloves and just lightly touches Magne, and you get to see that on his skin, parts of it are starting to sort of like reassemble and break down, when suddenly Magne's entire upper body just explodes in a massive, bloody explosion. It's shocking, it's ridiculous, and it's made even better by the fact that suddenly, right after that, all of Overhaul's goons just explode into the League of Villains hideout and immediately just start making short work of them. Even Mr. Compress tries to attack Overhaul, only for him to not only resist his abilities, but to also take his freaking left arm away. Basically, you don't want to mess with these guys, at freaking all. I honestly thought that they were going to be somewhat pushovers when compared to the League of Villains, but honestly, they are straight up rivals to this organization and could potentially overthrow them as the actual series goes on. All I know is, holy shit, what a great introduction to a group of villains. Overhaul in particular. They even go into the explanation that the Yakuza within this world are sort of like almost a non-existent thing at this point. In the past, the Yakuza pretty much ruled everything in the underworld, and when suddenly all of the heroes, and in particular All Might, came into the scene, pretty much all of their plans were completely squashed, except for a lone surviving few. That's where Overhaul and his group actually comes into play. He leads a Yakuza group which goes by the name of the Shie Hasaikai, and like I said, it doesn't look like they're going to be taking orders from anyone. And getting to see a villain actually oppose Tomura Shigaraki is really great. And while the League of Villains definitely took some massive losses, I'm not going to count them out quite yet, especially with the unbridled enthusiasm that All for One still has for his protege, Tomura Shigaraki. This was a really deadly blow for them, but they're simply going to bide their time and wait in the shadows before they strike again. This episode certainly made it clear, however, that Overhaul and his team are definitely going to be like the main villains of this arc, and seeing what they were capable of in this episode just has me all the more excited, especially getting to see what all of their special abilities are going to be, as since they all have a similar aesthetic of wearing Plague Doctor masks, it kind of hides what their true abilities are ultimately going to be. But one of them is like this one giant massive dude who has another guy who's sort of like riding on top of his back. There's another Plague Doctor guy who has these guns, and it looks like even Overhaul can even like call in like human bodyguards to protect him from attacks. Really, I just cannot wait to see more of these guys, and man, what a great introduction it was. The second half of the episode goes in a completely opposite direction when we finally go back to UA's school, and it looks like everybody's preparing for the big work studies program, with Deku being focused on for the most part. The main thing being that he wants to get someone to help him out. He immediately goes to Gran Torino, who suggests that maybe he should go to All Might and try and find someone. All Might suggests that Sir Nighteye might be someone good, but because of his weird relationship with him and the fact that they apparently had something of a falling out in the past, he's not going to be able to do this for him personally. That's when he calls upon Mirio Togata, who makes his grand and ridiculous return to the series. Another character that was teased and hyped up at the end of the last season, and again, his unbridled enthusiasm is also really awesome, as he's just like a ridiculous cartoon character from the 1920s who's just been suddenly thrusted into this modern-day anime show. And being that he's such a super nice guy, he's willing to help out Deku in allowing him to meet Sir Nighteye, a character who's been built up again since the end of the very last season. And I'm most interested to learn what his relationship with All Might was in the past, why they decided to not work together anymore. It is hinted at the fact that because of All Might pushing his body to the point of it being destroyed is one of the reasons why him and Sir Nighteye do not seem to want to work together anymore. Maybe Sir Nighteye didn't want him to actually push himself to the brink of potentially even killing himself and putting a lot of people in danger. I'm sure there's still a lot more to while he is a character who exudes a tremendous amount of seriousness, he actually does have a good sense of humor. In fact, that's kind of the rule that Togata comes up with when he's introducing Deku to him. In order to get good with his graces and to join him and work with him, he's going to have to make him laugh. Just once. This is a total King Kai situation we have here, although I have a feeling it's going to be a little more difficult in order to get this guy to laugh, as even though he does have a good sense of humor, he goes about it in a pretty messed up way. In fact, what I think I loved most about this episode was how the first half was incredibly dark and ridiculous and over the top and bloody, and the second half was just filled with all of these amazing, ridiculous, funny scenes. I mean, when Deku and Togata walk into Night Eye's office for the first time, he's actually torturing his current partner, this girl who goes by the name of Bubble Girl. I'm not really sure what her abilities are, I'm assuming they have to do with bubbles, but apparently she upsets Sir Nighteye to the point where she gets thrown into this torture device, which constantly tickles her, which also just kind of looks kind of creepy all at the same time. And when Deku walks in the room and sees this, he can't even really process the situation. The only thing on his mind is he has to make Night Eye laugh, and he does so by putting on an All Might face, which is really shocking and funny. It's not the first time that he's done anything like that in the series, and it's really funny that they bring up the plot point that he's been practicing this like for a very long time and sort of like waiting for the moment where it could potentially be useful, and it could work here, but it also looks like it could be pissing off Night Eye all at the same time, as if almost he's insulting All Might. All I know is the episode ends with the potential of Night Eye either laughing or getting really upset, and it's a really great dramatic way to end the episode, as well as to give us a little bit of levity, especially with the whole scene of Magne's body fucking exploding everywhere. So what's the rundown on this episode of My Hero Academia? Yes, the series is officially back in full swing, and this episode just immediately had me from the beginning. The overall atmosphere and introduction of Overhaul is one of the best villain introductions of the entire series. He's not really flashy, he's not really insane, but he just exudes this like weird dark coolness about his character, and I've always found it really fascinating when other villains go up against other villains, as even though they are bad guys at the end of the day, they have their very own ideals and things that they want to do. I mean, Tomura Shigaraki running the League of Villains is doing things in a very distinctive way when compared to Overhaul, who again is a part of the Yakuza, organized crime. Everything has to be by the books and has to be done in a very specific way. It's chaos versus order in a villainous sort of sense, and when these two things come together, ultimately it results in a lot of violence. Like I said, if it wasn't Magne just dying in a massive bloody explosion, it was Mr. Compress losing an arm, a character who I really didn't felt was going to get damaged by anything like that, but boom, just out of nowhere, all of these characters are just completely wrecked by Overhaul and his crew. Really, all the preview material and all the stuff that you see in the intro really shows that Overhaul and his team are going to be like the main villains of this saga, and I just really can't wait to see how it's all going to play out. According to a lot of people that I've talked to who read the manga version, they also say that this is going to be one of the longer arcs of the series, might even take up the entire season, which would be pretty different from My Hero, as they tend to do these shorter, quicker to the point arcs. But I'm ready for something that's a little bit more of a slow burn with some seriousness, and I think that Overhaul and his team are going to be the perfect way to deliver a story like that. All I know is I can't wait to see more of these crazy bastards. I can't wait to see how this is all going to tie into Deku training with Sir Nighteye, and maybe even bringing in some more of those side characters, which I desperately do want to see, as they're really the cornerstone of My Hero Academia. What I will say is maybe this season should have opened up with this episode right here. That being said, My Hero is back, and you guys definitely need to be checking it out. I loved this episode. I thought it had good production value, especially in the big action scenes at the very beginning of the episode. A great display of Overhaul's abilities, which were very shocking to say the least, and everything else looked pretty solid too, especially the expressions from Togata and Deku when he transformed into the All Might face. All that stuff was just really, really good. So this was a solid episode of My Hero Academia, and as far as I'm concerned, mandatory watching. I'm giving this episode a 5 out of 5, and you guys need to check it out. If any of you did watch the episode, I really want to hear what you thought about it in the comment section below. The introduction of Overhaul, the brand new villain, what did you think of his quirk powers? What exactly is he doing? Does he simply just have the ability to make people explode when he touches them? Can he do something else? Like when he was touching Magne, his skin was changing and moving around. Did that have something to do with it? Can he infect people with a virus of some kind? What's really going on here? And what do you want to see from his Yakuza organization, the Shie Hasaikai? Let's just have a big discussion about this episode, what you hope to see from the rest of the season in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Please subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this. If you like this video, use a freaking plus ultra style punch and hit that like button and share this video with your friends. So thank you again for watching this video. I'll see you all next time, and as always, plus ultra, baby!